السبيل.
Humanity sets the agenda.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most blessings, the most merciful. Childhood stress can be present in any setting that requires the child to adapt or change. Stress may be caused by positive changes such as starting a new activity, but it's most commonly linked with negative changes such as illness or death in the family. You can help your child by learning to recognize the signs of stress and teaching your child healthy ways to deal with it. And to tell us more, we have educational psychologist Dr. Genevive Da Silva. Good morning, Dr. Genevive, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, good morning, Miriam. Thank you for having me this morning.
It's a pleasure. Right, Dr. Genevieve, let us start off by first dissecting stress. What is stress, and is it similar to fear and anxiety?
So yes, when we think about emotions, emotions come in four core areas, really. We have our happiness, our sadness, our fear, and then our anger. And so if we think of those as base emotions, all our other emotions stem from that. So when we talk about stress, anxiety, those come from our core fear emotion. And fear is there to help protect us from things that are bad in the world. And so although fear, stress, anxiety sound like really bad emotions, they can also be really good in the right space and time because they're there to protect us. And so that is what our emotions are there to do. They tell us what's happening in the world around us and how we're reacting to them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what causes stress in children?
So you touched on a few things just now. We have our positive stress where we're starting something new. We don't know what to do with this. And so that fear, that base fear comes out to say that I'm not quite sure what's happening here. And so I need to do something about this. And so stress can start out that way because it's something new and it drives us to overcome an obstacle or a problem. So in that case, stress would be a really good thing. However, stress, when it happens too often or it becomes too much for us, or we face something that is too big for us, and we don't find the coping mechanisms or tools to overcome it, then it becomes something that's overwhelming and it stays or it hovers, and it starts to sort of take over our lives in that aspect. And so too much fear, too much anxiety, too much stress, or stress and anxiety or fear that we cannot overcome, we cannot get the right tools to overcome the problem, that's when it starts to get stuck. And so for our children, starting a new activity could be stressful, but perhaps finding somebody in school that is bullying them, who is always ugly to them, unkind to them, teachers that might be overbearing, expecting too much, or very negative. Those can be everyday situations for children that over time, or if they're unable to manage it, starts to become an overwhelming sort of stress. Even at home with parents, where we find some challenges, where there's maybe shifts in the family or things are changing, that could be stressful for a child. But they could be everyday things, like maybe the schedule's just too busy. There's too much homework at home and then chores as well. Or maybe there's just a situation that a child cannot understand or comprehend or doesn't know how to deal with it. And so in those moments, stress can then become overwhelming, even though it's an everyday situation.
All right, so we've established what stress is and what causes stress, not just in children, but in humans in general. Now, when it comes to children, what are the signs or the clues that parents and caregivers should be aware of?
So our emotions are always based in our body. Our body is reacting to the information that it's taking in from the world around us. And so often when we become overwhelmed with emotion, especially like your stress or anxiety emotions, we pick it up in our bodies first. And so something that a parent we can look out for, are when our children start to moan about things in their bodies that doesn't seem to have a medical base to it. So for example, a constant tummy ache, but there doesn't seem to be a tummy bug going around, or they're still eating, but there's certain times of the day where they're moaning about their stomachs. Sometimes headaches. We carry maybe stress in our shoulders, tensing up, what have you. So headaches can be a sign that maybe there's some stress going on. Maybe children struggle to fall asleep or struggle to stay asleep. They become very restless or agitated in the evenings. And so when we look at physical symptoms, sometimes that is where if they're complaining about pain in their bodies, but they can't tell you where. So there's a discomfort in the body. That's one sign. But then also our emotions are obviously emotional, so they're inside of us. And so our personalities or the way that we engage life can change. And so if you know your child well and you pick up that there's a shift in their personality or how they're engaging life. So they've always enjoyed going to school and suddenly they don't want to go to school. They've always spoken highly of their friends and suddenly they're always moaning about a friend in particular or a classmate in particular. Perhaps they don't want to study or they come up with excuses for not studying. Things like that. You can see something is out of sorts. They're just not the same as they've been previously as they're engaging with their everyday life. And then sometimes we can see some more difficulties start to come about in a sense of maybe they start withdrawing from activities they've always loved, or they start to avoid things, or sometimes they just say to you, they're using terms or phrases that show that they're worrying about something, that there's a concern about a certain aspect in life. And so even if they can't verbalize, I'm worrying about this or I'm stressed about this, it almost seems that they focus in on something and there's almost a negativity around it. So you can pick up the worry and stress in what they're saying and how they are engaging the world around them, and that it's different to what it always has been previously.
Mm-hmm. Now, earlier on, you mentioned headaches as one of the physical symptoms, and I remember my 3-year-old. Well, then she was 3, saying that she has a headache, and you think to yourself as a parent, like, you're 3-year-old. How are you getting a headache? Where are you getting headache? I mean, it doesn't occur to you as a parent that they could possibly having stress or fear or anxiety. So, from that, what are some mistakes that we make as parents?
So I think, and I'm going to speak as a parent myself, not just a professional, but I think one of the biggest mistakes we make as parents is that we just get too busy. And that's just the life that we live now, where there's so much going on, there's so much information that we have access to. Our jobs are very demanding as we go through all of the difficulties over the last 2 years of COVID, the economics, the challenges in our country. Our lives can become just overwhelmingly busy, and we're battling our own stress. And so one of the things is because we are so caught up in our everyday life, often we don't have time to just observe, watch, see where our children are at. And things that we might be able to pick up if we are present and engaging. Sometimes we only pick up after a long period of time, just because we haven't been able to put ourselves in an engaging space with our children. So I think that would be probably one of the mistakes that just comes so naturally and easily in this fast-paced world today, that because we're not present, we're unable to disconnect from all the busy things that are taking our focus. It's the little clues that get lost in that. And so, yes, so we could pick it up sooner. We just take a bit more time to get there in the end.
Right, so Dr. Genevieve, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, let's discuss how parents can help their stressed children.
Now I'm using Black Seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Black Seed. You can find Black Seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
There are an estimate of 153 million orphans worldwide. Change their lives by donating towards our Orphan Kind program. For 750 Rand per month, you can be the reason an orphan smiles. Go on, be orphan kind. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can help save these children's lives. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Prices are high, jobs are scarce, and the coldest days are here. South Africans are facing a bleak winter amidst global economic turmoil and soaring food costs. Keeping warm is an added expense. Let's help South Africa stay warm. Sponsor a blanket at just 90 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
11:19, you are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mukwana, and we are talking about stress in children, how to recognize them and what you can do about it when you see that your child is stressed. And many of the times, our kids do present with stress, but we often overlook it and think that, you know what, they're just being dramatic, or they're just being kids and they just want attention. Yes, they do want attention so that you can help them with whatever it is that they are going through. And with me is educational psychologist Dr. Genevive Da Silva. Dr. Genevieve, thank you for staying on the line. Now, how can parents help their stressed kids?
Cool. So I think the first thing we can do as parents is to just acknowledge that our children are battling something that they're unable to deal with on their own. So we all have coping mechanisms and skills that we learn how to use to deal with everyday life. And our children are still in the process of acquiring these, dealing with them, figuring things out. And so they need someone in their corner to help them. And so the first thing we can do is to just come alongside them and hear where they're at. We might not understand it completely. We might not even agree with it, but just the simple fact that they feel like we're in their corner and that we're there to help them is already a huge part of the battle that's won. And so especially when stress feels overwhelming, when you know you have somebody with you, you already feel like you can tackle whatever the problem might be. So listening to them would be the first point of call, and trying to understand it from their point of view. Put yourself in their shoes, whatever the age is. So like you were saying about when your daughter was 3 years old, put yourself into the 3-year-old shoes. If your child is a teenager, put yourself back into your teenage shoes and try and understand it from their perspective. And then from there, once you understand what it is they're going through and trying to understand why this is stressing them out, they feel that connectedness with you. They feel like you're in their corner, so that gives them the strength. But then we need to help them figure out, well, what is the actual problem that they're facing? And so with stress or fear, there's usually something very specific that they're stressing about. With anxiety, that's a little bit different because you can't always pinpoint what the worry is about. And usually anxiety has to do with the future, which stress has to do with tackling a problem that's now present, like too much homework or a bully or what have you. And so just understanding, is there a real problem that can be dealt with, or is it a fear of something that is still to come or might not even happen? And so making sure we understand what it is that is actually creating that fear inside of them. And then as we listen to them and understand them, we can help them figure out the skills that they need to tackle the problem. What is it that they're able to do currently? Have they tried things? Do they believe in themselves? Do we believe in them that they can do this? And then who do we maybe need to get to come with them and help them in sorting out whatever it is that they might be struggling with? And so there's some things that they can do on their own, and we need to encourage them in that. There might be new skills that they need to develop. And sometimes we need to get in the backup from somebody else that can help them to acquire those skills or walk with them on the journey to acquiring those skills to be able to overcome the problem.
Right now, these techniques that you've just mentioned, can they be used for children from all age groups?
So yes, what we do is we want to tailor how we engage our children based on their age. Teenagers don't really like to sit down and have a conversation with mom and dad anymore. They're very much in their own world, and their friends are the center of their world with them. So having a conversation with your teenager might be a bit more difficult, but they still need you in their corner. They still need to know that you're there for them and you're able to assist them or be there when they need you. And so instead of an eyeball-to-eyeball conversation with them, doing something that they enjoy doing with them is a place where you can connect, but it's not as intense as having a face-to-face conversation. So getting involved with what they're doing, if they're into playing computer games, if they're into sport or what have you, find the connection point and then conversation's easier. With smaller children, playing with them is also a great way to start that connection point. And watching how they play, hearing how they're talking to themselves when they're playing can give you a bit of a clue as to what's going on. But often with smaller kids, when they're sitting with you, you can have that conversation like, how was your day? What's going on? Tell me about that. Help me to understand. So younger kids might be easier to connect with than your teenagers. But sometimes even smaller children, like your 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, they don't always have the language to tell you what's going on. And so there we need to look at the clues in how they're playing or the things that they're saying or how they're acting out their day through their play. And so we just tailor it to the different ages. But yes, connecting with them, hearing them, understanding from their perspective, and then giving them skills. It just needs to be at the age group in which your child is at, and finding the best way to connect. And then obviously the practical skills will change. A 3-year-old will do very much less than what a teenager is able to do. And so there's simple skills that you might teach a 3-year-old, like how to say no, teaching them how to use a strong voice, or in our family, we call it a lion voice, when they have to say no and be assertive. Where for a teenager, we might need to teach them how to have better words or how to have difficult conversations, how to walk away from someone that's causing discomfort, how to be okay with putting down their cell phone when there might be bullying coming from those platforms. And so the skills might be different. But the general gist of those 3 steps would be the same for any age.
All right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Dr. Genevive, any final thoughts or advice for our parents?
So I think just as parents, let me encourage you in this very busy world, if we can take time to connect with our children as often as possible and create safe spaces for them, when they start to get overwhelmed, they always know that there is a place they can come where they can get the support that they need. And sometimes that means for us that we need to be aware and recognize our own stress so that we can deal with it, so that we have emotional capacity to be available to our children to help them deal with stress. And so that would just be my encouragement to you as parents, to me as a parent. When we're going through things, let's recognize it. Let's find a safe space where we can learn how to grow through our difficulties. Because if we're doing it well, then we have the skills to help our children deal with life well as well. And so we create that openness, we live life with them, and we help them learn just as we are learning to live and manage life and the stresses that we face.
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve. Every single step that we take in this journey called life is a learning curve for us and with our kids. And thank you so much for your time, Dr. Genevive, and for sharing that information with us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, and you as well. Keep well.
Thank you. That was Dr. Genevive Da Silva, an educational psychologist, taking us through stress, fear, and anxiety in children. And just quickly, the clues again that you can look out for. If some stress, fear, some stress, fear, or anxiety is good, then allowing children to experience it is necessary. But knowing when our children are heading towards something that is harmful allows us to intervene before it becomes devastating. So, how do you know when your child or yourself might be headed for the unhealthy version of stress, fear, or anxiety? Um, Look at changes in eating and sleeping habits. If it's too much or too little, if there are nightmares or fears about sleeping, waking at odd times, or not falling asleep. Look out for physical complaints such as stomach aches, headaches, and constant illness that just came out of nowhere. Look for change in mood and behavior, maybe demotivated, restless, forgetful, irritable, fighting, bullying, avoiding certain places and people, clinginess, tantrums. We see tantrums a lot with toddlers, disobedience, oppositional, self injury, alcohol, drugs, etc. Also, look out for change in school performance, perhaps there could be a drop in marks, or the child becomes disruptive, impulsive, inattentive, or dependent on the teacher and incomplete work. And when you notice a significant change in your child over a period of time, then you should start asking yourself questions like, is my child stressed? And what you can do about it. And you can go to an educational psychologist like Dr. Genevieve to help you out with some coping mechanisms and techniques. And yeah, as you mentioned, be a present parent, because if you know what is happening around you as a parent, then you will be able to assist your child no matter what age they are. I mean, we all go through stress. Life is stressful. We are living in stressful times as it is. So just be aware of yourself, be aware of your surroundings, and be a present parent. Don't become an absent parent. We do know that. The world is changing, fast changing, and there's so much going on around us. But let us try to be present parents at least. It is 11:29. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mara Mukwanda.